Hello, I'm Mark Mason, Communications Manager for Dash. Today's Ask Me Anything is with Ryan Taylor, Dashcore Group CEO. Welcome, Ryan, to the AMA, and thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Okay, before we begin, I'd just like to do a quick overview of the AMA format. We are broadcasting this live on several social media platforms. For those of you watching, may I kindly ask that you like and share this video stream so we can reach as many people as possible. The AMA today will be for 60 minutes. Please feel free to start submitting your questions in the comment sections. We will do our very best to answer as many of your questions as possible. Please do try to keep your questions as short and direct as possible. While we wait for the first few questions to come in, I have a few pre-prepared questions from the Dash Talk Discord community to start with. So let's begin. Okay, Ryan, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's fire
All
away.
right. Okay. So first question, we actually had a few questions on this topic submitted. So I just picked one generic because I didn't want to have too many of them. And I think it's an interesting one. Does Ryan Taylor support lowering the 5 Dash proposal fee? So I think we might have to give a little bit of a background on this, just in case people are watching this that are new to Dash. So there is a 5 Dash proposal fee to submit a proposal to the network to receive funding. And with the price appreciation, obviously that goes up. And in the past, that's kind of worked as an anti-spam feature. Now, I was talking to Ryan about this just before the podcast started, just to see how much traction this is, because this is actually a community submitted proposal from a community member. And it's kind of like an ongoing discussion, Ryan, because, you know, you could bring it down to say like 1 Dash, or you could tie it to a dollar amount. I mean, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so this topic has come up in the past. Back in 2017, 2018, it came up as an issue that it's very expensive for people to submit a proposal, depending on the USD price. And so it is a valid concern. I think that too high of a price to submit a proposal would discourage newcomers to the community to attempt to, submit a proposal and start delivering something of value to the community. At the same time, asking 1,000 or so masternode operators or owners to review your proposal is a significant ask, and we don't necessarily want to make it so easy that our masternodes or our proposal system can be spammed with nonsense. And so we need it to be a real amount that people do have to part with in order to submit a proposal, in order for those two needs to balance out. Now, obviously, it cannot stay at 5 Dash forever, because the proposal system itself emits less and less Dash every year. And so the proposal fee reimbursements take up a larger and larger share of that over time. And so we do need to fix this issue at some point in the future. I think that there are a number of different ways that we can go about it. I think one of the most logical would be, submitting changes, or not submitting changes, having the proposal fee change in proportion to the proposal system itself. So back in 2015, when the proposal system was first deployed, it was 5 Dash. Well, every year the emission in the proposal system drops by about 7% per year. And so perhaps it should be at 3.5 or 4 by now. So that is one way to keep the proposal fee in lockstep with the size of the available budget. Now, if Dash goes back to $1,000 and the size of the budget is enormous, you arguably don't want a bunch of small proposals at that point, because a $5,000 effort or something is unlikely to move the needle for a project that is that size. The billions of dollars that the Dash network would represent at that point any proposal being submitted and asked to be reviewed needs to move the needle. And so, I think that there's a balancing act here, and I think there are different solutions to it. I know there's other opinions out there. This hasn't been our highest priority to address. It's kind of been in the backlog. And, the proposal system continues to work well. It continues to allow for contributors to come in and contribute something of value to the community and get paid for it. So it's functioning fine. But, as time goes on, this becomes a larger and larger issue and will move up to the front of the backlog at some point for us.
Yeah, I think this is like an interesting question because it's almost like a network decision. It's for everyone to decide. So I would be curious to see more feedback on this. So although please keep submitting your questions, I'd love to know your thoughts on this. And of course, on our proposal system, masternodes can comment. And I think this is should be like an ongoing debate. There's a lot of nuances in this, and it needs a lot of thought. And so let's keep talking about it.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody has the answer because I don't think it exists. I think there's just trade-offs with various solutions. I've heard a number of different proposed options to deal with it. And I think that, what we need to do is collect all of those ideas, vet them from a technical perspective, and out of those that are technically feasible, which ones make the most sense given their trade-offs, and ultimately put a proposal to the network. Of course, anybody's free to go through that process. For Dashcore Group, we haven't done it yet, but like I said, it is in our backlog, and it's something we do plan to address at some point.
Okay, excellent. Please do keep your questions coming in. I'm just going to select another question that was submitted in the Dash Talk Discord while we await for more questions to come in. So speaking of block rewards and allocation of Dash, when is the first block reward reallocation that was past being implemented officially? I think it's already started, Ryan. Couldn't find any official info on dates for the 5-year adjustment period. Do you just want to provide a bit more forward guidance on that?
Yeah, so first of all, some background on this. There was a series of discussions that took place that Dashcore Group facilitated starting in December 2019 around the rate of growth of our circulating supply and what a block reward reallocation could do to address that. There were other solutions that we looked at, but ultimately block reward reallocation was straightforward. It was predictable what the outcome would look like on our circulating supply growth rate, and that was the issue that we were aiming to address. Ultimately, we put a proposal to the network to resolve this issue. It did pass over the summer. I think it was in the July cycle. And we implemented it in August on testnet. And by end of September 30th, it was released to mainnet. Now, Dashcore Group doesn't control the masternodes. We don't control the rate of adoption of miners and masternodes for this new version. And so it took some adoption period to take place. And so it was really up to the network how quickly that activated. And it did activate in early November. That means the first reallocation took place November 27th, approximately, when the superblock paid for the November cycle. Every 3 months thereafter, there will be another small reallocation. So we experienced another one at the end of February. The next one would come when the superblock pays at the end of May. And so the reallocation is underway. The effect is that masternode rewards have increased slightly. And they'll continue to increase throughout next year, which will, encourage a gradual increase in the number of masternodes, though at a slower pace than the rate of growth of the overall coin. And so we're allowing the coin supply, circulating coin supply, to expand as planned, but this dampens the rate at which that will occur. And so, yeah, that's really what is happening there, and when the next event will occur.
Excellent. Thanks, Ryan. Do you think we'll be able, because in your initial presentation, Improving Dash as a Store of Value, you had some fantastic charts, and I think you had a breakdown of dates. Perhaps we should work on that to get an updated kind of like infographic to share out for the community. Would that work?
Yeah, that's a great idea, actually. We had estimated that the reallocation, or the guidance that we provided, was based on a reallocation that started at the end of September. Given it took a month and a half to actually lock in, we now know what those dates will be with a high degree of certainty, going out the full period of the reallocation. And so we could publish an updated table of dates, the reallocation amount, and the expected impact that will have on our circulating supply.
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan. Okay, next question coming in from YouTube, from Joel Venezuela, our old friend, my ex-colleague. When will Dashcore Group developers be hired in order to ensure that platform is released on Mainnet in a timely manner? I think you've got some good news on this, Ryan, don't you?
Yeah. So the recent price increase has allowed our treasury to expand. And that's obviously beneficial for sustainability, but it's increased to the point that we're very comfortable beginning to expand the team. And the first place that we're expanding is within the platform team. There are some permanent roles that we knew we needed. Particularly, we needed Go developers. And the reason that we need that is because TenderDash, which is based on Tendermint, is written in Go. And so we had some developers with some Go experience, but it took some muddling through for those people to make changes to TenderDash that were necessary. Ultimately, that has to be maintained going forward. We have back ports from Tendermint that have to be incorporated on an ongoing basis. So for platform team to function well, we need a Go expert. And so I recently signed contracts to bring some additional resources into the team. Additionally, we're looking at some more roles that we need to backfill, and we're beginning to act on those as well. And so the good news here is, yes, we're de-risking platform with the recent price increase. And it's not just platform that we're looking to bring people on board. There are some other functions that we had to scale back in the past. Business development, marketing really took the brunt of that. We really don't have a marketing team currently. And so, being able to rehire some of those positions will allow those functions to begin to operate at a greater scale again.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Yeah, Joel did follow that up, saying additional developers. I should have said. Well, last time, Ryan, on the last AMA, is there anything specific with these developer skills you're looking for? Because I know we're looking for a Golang developer, but I guess in addition to that, where can people go? If there's any developers watching this that may be interested, where will these job announcements be created? Where can they go and learn more of what the Dashcore Group is actually looking for?
Yeah, so some of the jobs may or may not be posted, and the reason for that is oftentimes we have volunteers who are already working with the team and familiar, and we've become familiar with them. And if that is the case, we're prioritizing speed and the fact that we have someone already who's ready to ramp up quickly. We're going to act on that in the same way any business would, right? Like if we have a resource that we're already familiar with that has been contracting with us or what have you, or volunteering, and we believe them to be high quality, we're going to bring those people in first. For those that we do post the job for, we create a blog post for that. So the dash.org blog is one resource that we use. We also have used recruiters in the past, not for every job, but oftentimes that makes sense, particularly when we're looking for a very specific skill set and need to do outreach. So we've worked with August Venture Talent in the past, other recruiters on the technical side as well. And lastly, we do post to job boards and other places besides dash.org for those. But really the place to watch is the blog. And whenever we do a blog post, we publish that on all of our social media, so Twitter or whatever. So if you're following us anywhere, you're going to see any of the jobs that are posted publicly.
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan. Okay, lots of questions coming in now. Okay, here's an interesting one. Hey guys, Ryan, what do you think about adding more privacy to the Dash network? How do you think it should be implemented in some observable future? ZK proof or zero knowledge proofs, ring signatures, and some other tech. Well, there's been a lot of talk on the regulation front right now, and Ryan's been very active in this area. So yeah, Ryan, what do you think about that?
Well, I am supportive of privacy. I think that we need more of it in crypto, not less of it. I think there's obviously a great deal of regulatory challenges associated with that, because I think the regulators are acting in a way that's very similar to the way that they acted to encrypted internet traffic in the beginning. They just, they focus exclusively on the negatives of that and what that could mean for, child pornography or something like that, without focusing on the fact that privacy is needed. It is actually needed to prevent crime and prevent people's privacy from being invaded by bad actors, for people's safety and other reasons. And so right now we're in that stage where regulators are very concerned about that aspect of cryptocurrency. And they're pursuing a very misguided attempt to label cryptocurrencies as anonymity enhanced or non-anonymity enhanced in some binary fashion. In my opinion, that's pretty absurd for a lot of different reasons, not the least of which is, these are not static technologies. The privacy features are oftentimes not implemented at an asset level. They may be an attribute of a wallet, a software that accesses the network, or an individual network may have different transaction types, like Lightning Network does, versus a regular on-chain transaction versus a liquid network transaction for Bitcoin. So, I think that, and even within a transaction type, it may have privacy enhancement for the sender, or only the receiver, or only under certain circumstances, or subject to the behavior of other participants to the network, or any number of factors. And so trying to assign some binary assignment to all of that is frankly absurd. And I'm not the only one taking this position. We're definitely going to take this position in our notice of proposed rulemaking that FinCEN recently put out. So I think in the long run, privacy will be an expectation of these networks, and that regulators are just going to they're going to be forced into a risk-based approach to all cryptocurrencies. And so in light of that, I think that, we're going to be pursuing additional privacy features in the same way that other networks have been. Bitcoin has enhanced its privacy. Litecoin is rolling out Mimblewimble. I think it actually rolled out on the 15th, or at least it was scheduled to. And so, this is just the direction of the industry. We're going to be moving in that direction too. In terms of the specific technologies, I think that's something that we're having conversations with some of the core developers on. This is really at the core product level. where these features would be implemented. And we're beginning to look at that for future versions, because it's really not an area where we've focused a great deal. We have made improvements to private send in the way that it functions, the speed of it, the level of privacy that a user can expect, the number of participants to a coin join has increased, the number of rounds you can perform has increased. Like we have made enhancements, but I think there's a lot more that we could do. And I think when platform is behind us, this is going to be an area where we would focus a great deal of attention.
Excellent, thank you, Ryan. I think this might be a good opportunity to also discuss. In the last AMA 1 month ago, a question came up about the renaming of private send, and you mentioned that the wheels were in motion. Is there any more updates on that? I think you mentioned, like, in a future release update, there was going to be some decision made, but it was still being discussed internally. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, so we may have talked about this on the last one, but we have decided, to unbrand private send. I think that we're just going to name it CoinJoin and have a CoinJoin tab instead of a private send tab in the core wallet, and just unbrand it. We do have the opportunity to rebrand it again in the future if we like, but I think that this is an issue that has cropped up in conversations with regulators, where we say, look, we have a fully transparent blockchain in the fullest sense of the word. Every input address, every input amount, every output amount, it's all there on the blockchain. And the privacy tech that we use is CoinJoin. And we go through an hour-and-a-half long presentation, and at the end, somebody raises their hand and they say, yeah, but you guys call it private send, so I don't believe any of this. And so it's working against us in terms of access, and in our estimation at this point, there's no harm in unbranding it, calling it what it is. It's CoinJoin, and the benefits are still there, and it can potentially help us to move past this issue with the regulators. It also doesn't translate particularly well into certain languages, we found out. There isn't really a distinction between privacy and anonymity in some languages, or the distinction is lessened. And so when you use the word private send and it gets translated, it has an ominous tone to it in certain languages. And so this is, again, just an issue that we face, where it creates more perception issues than we'd like. And this is, a solution to that.
Oh, I think that's a fantastic update, and I'm sure the community will be very receptive to that. And I actually think moving forward, once we get past the understanding, because it is an educational issue, for me personally, the CoinJoin functionality of Dash is the digital cash aspect. In terms of the consumer, it's actually the responsible thing to do. Dash is the equivalent of physical cash. If I spent $5 in the store, that merchant shouldn't be able to see my balance, where I spent in the past, where I'm spending in the future. So in this whole privacy aspect, it's actually more about secure transactions and protecting the customer. And we do no more than what physical cash does. So this is really an educational issue, and the problems that Dash has faced is just external optics based on not misinformation, but misunderstanding. And once you truly understand what it's there for, we've been very successful. It's just, as Ryan says, you've got to get the foot in the door just to have a conversation. And going through the technology is, it's a steep learning curve, right, Ryan? It's not easy.
Yeah, I think that regulators have a very limited understanding of this, and I think when we first went in and had our first conversations with regulators, we talked to them about how Dash's private send is an implementation of CoinJoin. very similar to implementations of CoinJoin that exist on other networks, that, it fundamentally doesn't change the nature of a Bitcoin transaction. It still has to have signed inputs. It still has to have, it's actually a restriction on the type of transaction that can traverse the network, not a new transaction type. It doesn't require any changes to the transaction rule set in order to operate. And so, we started having these level of conversations. The regulators' response was, nodding their heads and saying, yes, okay, thank you for the presentation, and so on. And after about the third or fourth one, we started seeing a pattern of questions that made it clear that we were talking way, way above their heads. We needed to really start focusing on the basics. Do you understand how a Bitcoin transaction works? Have you ever used a Bitcoin wallet? Okay, no. Okay, let's explain what a normal transaction looks like. So, I think we kind of made assumptions about how much they understood. And the issue is regulators change, right? The individuals in those roles change over time. New people come in, and people that start to understand it may move on to other roles within government or into industry or into legal work or something. And so it's almost a process of re-education until the institution itself becomes educated. And so it is a monumental undertaking. It does take up a significant amount of my time and Glenn's time and Omar's time, but it's important that our voice is represented, because there is such a perception issue out there. Definitely stemming from our days known as Darkcoin, and it was DarkSend, and that can only be evil. And so, this is kind of the mountain we're trying to climb.
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan. Okay, let's move it on. Now, this is from Tao Satoshi from Cash Alternative TV. Hi, Tao. Now, I want to make sure I'm fully understanding this question because it's an interesting one. Has there been any thought to create a new token on layer 2, meaning masternodes, to deal with our stock split tokenomics issue and leave layer 1 as a settlement layer? Now, if I understand this correctly, is he talking about like special transactions? Because we were talking about creating like a one-to-one iteration for once we get Dash platform functionality. Am I understanding this correctly, Ryan? I mean, how are you interpreting this question?
I think his question is, there's discussion about how as the value of Dash goes up, and, we're sitting at $230 right now, that isn't the easiest unit to work in on a day-to-day basis. So if I'm buying a t-shirt, it ends up being 0.01 Dash or something, so, it starts to become a little less conceptual for people to be able to conceptualize how much money are we dealing with here in these decimal places. And it is a real issue. There are various solutions to this, one of which is use a new denomination, start using microdash. In the case of Bitcoin, start using Satoshis or something. So that is one potential solution. The solution he's talking about here is leveraging platform to issue new tokens that represent, say, 1/100th of a Dash. And that those new units may then be used and spent. I think that is the proposal. It is possible to issue assets on layer 2. How this exact mechanism would work or whether it would resonate with users, I'm not sure. So I think that this is an area that we could do some exploration. I think that if you look at other networks, I do wonder to the extent to which price appreciation has held those coins back from adoption. Bitcoin is a perfect example where maybe this is becoming less and less of an issue over time as people become familiar with the fact that these assets are available in fractional amounts. People could start using microdash or some other unit to denominate in as the price continues to increase. So I think that there are various solutions out there, and it's not up to any one individual to decide what gets used, in the same way that, you know, people are using Satoshis alongside of other units in Bitcoin. And I don't think you necessarily need to issue new assets on layer 2 in order for that to occur.
Yeah. I guess like we've got a little time on our side, because a lot of that's tied to actually the adoption and utility, and that's, you know, has to have a lot of mainstream use in those terms, to start talking about using duffs or satoshis, or, you know, in that sort of sense. So, but it's exciting though. I mean, it's obviously an upcoming conversation and debate to have within the community on the direction to go. I know this has propped up a couple of times before in how we reference certain denominations. And it's always an interesting one.
Dash is probably the next thing to emerge. I think when you hit $1,000, it's very natural for people to start referring to Dash, which is 1/1000th of a dash. Then it's $1, and it's very, you know, easy to reference. But I you know, there are other solutions out there, and that's probably the simplest one. That's easiest to adopt. It doesn't lead to any type of confusion. Versus a redenomination or a stock split would, where, you know, it then becomes clear, well, which dash are you talking about, the the main chain dash or the level 2 dash? So I think this is something where, you know, looking to other networks as an example may be kind of a good direction for us, and just staying with what's in the industry. Or we may see something Dash specific emerge in terms of terminology.
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan. Well, lots of comments and questions coming in. Please do keep them coming. Nice validation on here. Nice, great news with the more devs. Thank you very much, Major Rex. Okay, well, I mentioned adoption and utility, and there's one question here from Herman's Crypto Guide. Did the growth of Dash usage in Venezuela slow down recently? Well, I think in terms of usage with coronavirus last year, in terms of merchants and physical stores, I think everyone's been highly affected. But anyway, that aside, didn't see many statistics for the last 5 months or so. Is Dash usage stable? They're going down a bit. Well, Brian, you can talk about the transaction count, because actually 2020 in terms of transaction volume, you know, maybe not specific to Venezuela, but we can specifically talk about the active addresses in Venezuela still making up the majority. And the transaction volume is actually on the up. The trend is your friend in this case.
Yeah, so we are in our 10th consecutive quarter of transaction count increases when you look at a median day. You know, this excludes kind of the stress tests that may occur on Mainnet from time to time. But talking about Venezuela specifically, a lot of the data that we do get access, we obviously can't look at on-chain data and determine what's going on with Venezuela. What we can do is request from our partners who accept Dash as a form of payment, or payment processors like you know, AnyPay or whatever, in order to share what data they're seeing in terms of Dash usage, Bitcoin usage, etc. Now, a lot of that data is proprietary. They share it with us under guidance that they don't want it released publicly for various reasons, some of which involve, you know, just concern over regulatory reasons, or or for competitive reasons or something like that. And so we're usually not able to share the data, but we do get visibility to it, and I can summarize kind of patterns that I'm seeing without revealing any individual merchant and without revealing any individual payment processor. The trends that we're seeing in Venezuela is that usage does continue to increase year on year, and it fluctuates a lot month to month. We do see patterns that when the price of Dash or Bitcoin or anything is up, that is when people tend to want to spend. So they essentially are spending their gains. We also see that Bitcoin transactions still are attempted more often than Dash transactions are at the point of sale. but they fail at a much higher rate. Now, we don't know, we have no visibility into the reasons why a Bitcoin transaction fails. It could be that the user sees the network fee and makes a decision that that is too much. I'm spending $20 and the network fee right now is 10. This doesn't make sense for me to transact. Or it could be because of wallet issues or some other issue that crops up. What we do see is that Dash transactions are successful a high percentage of the time. And so Dash is actually used more often at the point of sale than Bitcoin is, and is by far has the highest market share in terms of acceptance at the point of sale in Venezuela. And so the transaction amounts tend to be lower too. So, and that makes sense. If you're transacting with Bitcoin and you're incurring a high Bitcoin fee, you're only going to do it if you're buying $200 worth of groceries. You're not going to buy a carton of milk with it. And so on average, Dash transactions are more successful. They're for smaller amounts and they're occurring more often. So we believe this is creating habits. A much better user experience clearly is being had by our users than users of other cryptocurrencies. And we're getting more repeat business. And so I think that we're on a very good trend in Venezuela. The data that I get to see is in bits, and it's not every month, and it's, you know, it's kind of subject to whether or not they want to share it with us. But the data that we're seeing is pointing to the fact that Dash is the most consistently used when it comes to making purchases at merchants.
Absolutely. And I checked out the active wallets on the Android Dash wallet app, and Venezuela is still the #1 country in terms of usage by a long shot. So clearly it's still being utilized in Venezuela, and people are using it on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and it's not 1 or 2 transactions at some of these larger merchants. It's in the hundreds per month. And so that's not 1 or 2 people walking in the door. These are like, we are penetrating the market, and we are getting regular users to go to merchants that accept Dash on a regular basis. And so the adoption is real. It's great to see, and it's good to see that, you know, for a while we were neck and neck with Bitcoin in terms of transactions, and now we're starting to pull ahead on a fairly consistent basis.
Excellent. Well, I was going to leave this to actually like the end of the podcast to kind of close with. But before we started the podcast, I was talking to Ryan about perhaps getting some exposure and giving you, the viewers, what you would like to see. And our head of business development, Ernesto, is probably best suited to answer some questions about what's going on in Venezuela from the ground. So please, in the comments, let me know who you would like to see on future AMAs. Both myself and Ryan want to deliver what you want. So let us know if there's anyone in particular, if it's Bob Carroll, CTO, if it's the head of business development, Ernesto, or me personally. I've seen some interest to do an AMA with the Dash Investment Foundation, because there's a lot of questions around what's going on there. So help me out, give some feedback, tell me who you'd like to see on the AMA, and I'll do my best to make it happen. And then I'll look later on, and then, yeah, I'll see where via proof of emoji likes up, and I will try to do my best to pick the one that the community wants the most. Okay, moving on. All right, okay, well, speaking of the Dash Investment Foundation, any information on the big news that you guys talked about in early January that couldn't be released? I did see you comment on a proposal about this, Ryan, recently, and I know it's pretty delicate, so I'll let you handle this one.
Yeah, so we had a roadmap to, we being the partner and ourselves had a roadmap to be able to release this news by the end of January originally. That was dependent on execution of the Dash related product that the investment was associated with. So we invested in this firm. It's a financial services firm. that firm agreed to integrate Dash into their products. And unfortunately, one aspect of that is that they're dependent on is custody. They had a custody solution lined up. They were executing against that plan, and the custody partner informed them that they could no longer meet their timeline, and in fact needed to delay a substantial period due to other projects that they needed to, not even products, but projects related to regulatory concerns that take precedent over everything else. And so literally their entire roadmap got pushed back, including the Dash implementation, and that caused them to start from scratch by mid-February. And so we are now helping them and helping connect them with custody partners, and helping those custody partners to evaluate their needs and what would need to be done in order to meet their needs. We're helping from a technical standpoint on those discussions. So it is a delay, but we're doing our best to move that forward as quickly as we can. If we're not able to launch the product itself in the near future, we have had discussions with our partner to at least announce the investment so that you can guys see where we invested and what the product will be when we're able to launch it. And so hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to announce something soon. We want to respect our partners' wishes, and they want to respect ours too. Like we do want to get this great news out to the community, even if there's been an implementation delay. We'll be hopefully announcing something soon. I know that there's a lot of anxiety about, ooh, what is it? But I think that the community will be happy when we're able to get this one done.
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan, for providing clarity on that. Okay. Wow. Here's an interesting one. So I saw this pop up in the Talk Discord as well. So it's, when will the new head of marketing start? And I think you have some good news on that, Ryan. So although I should just clarify, in the question they put marketing director, but the position is head of marketing, just for.
That's right. So we are hiring a head of marketing. We went through a process with an external recruiter. We also posted this job on our blog post, and went through an extensive interview process. Ultimately, we made an offer a couple of weeks ago. That offer has been accepted, and our new head of marketing is starting on Monday. Her name is Arden Goldstein, and she has extensive marketing experience. In fact, she's an adjunct professor at San Diego State on the topic of marketing. She has extensive experience in consumer marketing. She's done some crypto marketing as well, though on the business-to-business side. So she comes to us with knowledge about cryptocurrencies. We're going to have to get her up to speed on Dash specifically, of course, and on all the tools and all of the assets that we do have in her first couple of weeks here. So don't expect to hear from her over the next couple of weeks while we get her ramped up and set up with all the online tools we use to interact, and get her up to speed on the work that we've done up till this point and the different social media channels that we have and all of that. But you will eventually hear from her within the next 3-4 weeks on her initial impressions of our marketing efforts to date, and an emerging strategy as we work with her to develop that.
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan. Got some great questions coming in. Please do keep them coming in. Now, this next question I'm really excited about, and I know Ryan has a really great update for you. So when is the Crepe app going live with Dash?
Yeah, so I have provided guidance on this in the past, I think over Twitter. with questions that I've received there as we've tweeted about kind of the progress with Crepe. We remain on schedule for end of next month, maybe sooner, depending on whether or not we can get the last bits and bytes set up. It will be called Dash Direct. That's the name of the application. The payment portion of it has been integrated. We've been working with them through our brand guidelines to make sure that those are being followed. I've seen the designs. They're looking very slick at this point. And we're on task or on schedule for next month. The other good news here is that we've managed to not only get every merchant in the Crepe app to sign up for the Dash version, but we've gotten additional merchants to sign up that aren't in Crepe's application. The reason we're able to do that is because of the lower transaction fees, and of course there's no such thing as a Dash chargeback. And so unlike credit cards, they're able to operate at lower costs, and that means they can bring merchants in that offer them a smaller margin and do it economically. And so there'll be merchants that are in the application that, first of all merchants will offer a deeper discount than the ones that you see in the generic Crepe application. So the Dash specific one will have steeper discounts, and those discounts will increase over time as we use it more. And the second thing is that we're going to have access to more merchants than they do, and so in the generic version. Now, not all of those will offer discounts. Some of them don't even allow savings to be offered, but it does provide benefit to a Dash user because it gives you the option to spend there. So, you know, if that means offering something like Amazon or Walmart or one of these types of merchants, it's still a benefit even if there isn't a discount. So we're going to give more access to use your Dash in the United States than, you know, by 1,000 times just by doing this single integration. So it's really great news for users, and the average savings are somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 6%. It's way better than you could get with any credit card, and so I think there's just a huge incentive to actually use Dash on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, Ryan, just a very, very quick follow-up, because we spoke about this before. If I understood correct, the longer the app is out, the actual savings will get better with time. Can you just explain how that works?
Yeah, so one of the things that we did to make this partnership a reality is we basically applied what would otherwise be Dash core groups. It's a referral revenue that normally gets paid to a Crepe partner. And what we did is we directed that to the user. Now, there is an integration cost up front. You know, they have to pay engineers and in order to onboard Dash payments and reconfigure the application for that instead of credit cards, and doing you know, the UI changes and reaching out to all of these merchants to see if we can get more of them, and all of that work up front does cost Crepe money. They agreed to basically capture that in the form of a one-time cost. And as we use the application, the Dash Core Group revenue share actually goes to pay that down. As it gets paid down, the revenue share starts to get shared with our users. And so the more that we use it, we open up new tiers of savings. And so Dash Core Group will receive no funding from Crepe or kickback or, you know, no revenue share. Instead, that revenue share is going to you, the user, as that gets paid down. And And so that's the structure that we thought made sense and delivered the most value to our users and the most incentive for users to begin using the application. So that initial 4 to 6% will increase. It'll go up to 8% or something like that you can expect to save by using the application. And that starts to become a very strong motivator versus paying cash or paying with a credit card. And at that point, there's no reason not to use it. And the benefit for the merchants here is by being a partner in this program, our Dash community becomes a loyal set of consumers that are frequenting your establishment instead of the restaurant down the street that doesn't take it. And so there's a strong incentive for the merchants. There's a strong incentive for our users, and this goes way beyond any credit card loyalty program that you could imagine.
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan. Okay, so many questions coming in. This is amazing. Right. Okay.
I see a good question there on how Dash Direct works and whether the user flow will be smooth.
Yeah, so go for it.
Here's the way that the user flow works. You're in the Crepe application and you find a merchant that's nearby. You're at the mall or something and you see an ice cream place. You select it. You'll actually enter in the amount that you want to pay. Click the pay button. It will call, the Crepe application will call the user's wallet, and it will pre-populate the wallet with the amount and address that needs to be paid. The user will authorize the payment, and the user's device will then call back the Crepe application to display the QR code or the barcode or whatever that merchant uses to accept digital gift cards. And you'll just display it, they'll scan it, and you've paid. And so the user flow it's instant. It's not over email the way that other gift card programs are, where they deliver the gift card to you via email. That can take several minutes. You can't stand at a point of sale holding your device for well, it's going to be here any minute. That doesn't work. And so the Crepe app is designed to deliver the gift card to the user instantly, as soon as the payment is authorized. So as soon as they detect the payment on the Dash network, they go ahead and authorize the gift card and display it on your device. So as long as you have a decent connection with your phone, you're going to be able to use it instantly.
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan. Okay, we've got a question about the diff here, which is an interesting one. So would it be realistic for Dashcore Group, Dash Investment Foundation to put on the negotiation table a request to have potential partners to pay out employees a percentage of their salaries or bonuses in Dash? I mean, I guess that's specific to each and every partner that you work with, and I guess the pitch decks that the Dash Investment Foundation receives. But is this the first time that this has ever come up, or have you ever discussed this with anyone before?
So this isn't something that we've had discussions with potential diff partners on. I can tell you from personal experience that this is very difficult to implement in certain jurisdictions. Where we are seeing the most traction with this is in Venezuela, and we have experimented with it. There are employees in Venezuela getting a portion of their salary in Dash. The portion that the employees tend to choose is somewhere between 0 to 25%. Because that is essentially their spending money, if you will. And so the research that we've done, it's on a very limited user set base. It indicates that they're open to a small percentage of their salary being paid in Dash. And we're trying to scale that program up. One of the challenges with it is there aren't large payroll companies in Venezuela. It tends to be that payroll is handled by the finance department and paid individually with individual wire transfers, and there isn't really a consolidated place to go. But we are packaging that and beginning to experiment with it with some of our partners in Venezuela. It is something that I think we can have discussions with partners about. It obviously would be subject to the employee agreeing to accept a portion of their salary in Dash. So the amount of uptake we can expect from that, I'm not sure. But we can always run an experiment. It's an interesting idea, and one that isn't foreign to me. Like I said, we're trying this in Venezuela, and it's beginning to work. So I think that, given a certain jurisdiction and rule set and how difficult it is from a payroll perspective to be able to do it, would inform whether or not this is something worth pursuing.
Okay, here's an interesting comment. Dash needs to have a coin burn. Now, I've seen this come up quite a lot recently. I think crypto.com had one. But keeping in mind we're a proof of work coin as well, and Dash is already quite scarce. But I'm wondering, has this ever come up in conversations within Dashcore group to have a coin burn? Because our coin issuance from the inception of the white paper was pretty clear. Reason why we wanted to have a smooth, coin issuance. But coin burn, have you ever discussed this? I'm kind of curious to know as well.
Well, I'm wondering who would want to burn their coin. We're decentralized. I think that, we don't have a foundation with 25% of the coins in it. We didn't have an ICO. It'd be like asking Bitcoin to have a coin burn. It just doesn't. Yeah, I don't know who would volunteer to say, okay, I'll sacrifice all of my coin for this. So I think it just doesn't apply as easily to our network. The foundation, takes the Dash that it gets and invests it into businesses that help the network grow. Dashcore Group uses it to, pay salaries and expenses and these types of things that are necessary to and other teams do the same thing. Any funding coming from the Treasury essentially is burned if it isn't used or approved by the masternodes. So in a sense, that's kind of the closest thing that we have to a coin burn. Those coins just are never going to exist. And so you can think of it like about 10% of the coins that haven't been created yet would be coming from or destined for Treasury. So to the extent that we don't spend Treasury, that's the equivalent. And so, I just don't see this as having an apples to apples comparison with, say, an ICO coin, where some foundation somewhere holds a huge portion of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all depends on the application. I do recall when we first started talking about the Dash Investment Foundation, obviously for tax reasons, any profits made further down the line, it may say, I know some people in the community personally take issue with the term coin burn, but I think the people that advocate for it as well, they think of the economic side of it, because you're taking those coins out of circulation, which, reduces the supply, which, has an impact. But I'm guessing with the diff right now of your portfolio, where you're expanding your portfolio and looking at ideas, it's going to be quite some time before you realize those gains or profits anyway, right? So there's a lot of time to think about this.
Yeah, if we end up investing in the next Google or something like that and end up, having income beyond the diff's wildest imagination, beyond that which could actually help the network to grow and expand and meet its targets, a coin burn is an option where we could purchase Dash on the open market and destroy it. And that would be the equivalent of doing share buyback or something like that for a company. It makes the asset more scarce. It, would have an appreciative effect on the price. But the entire portfolio of the diff is currently under $1 million. So, I think that there's a lot that we can do to expand access and expand our influence within the market well beyond $1 million worth of investment. A single capital raise for one of these companies can be in the $15 million range or something like that for a Series A. So, the influence that we could have with a much larger budget would far outweigh the benefits of a tiny coin burn like that. So if the diff does get a return on its investment and has a liquidation event of one of its investments where one of our investments gets bought out by another company and we get a flush of cash, we would probably be looking for ways to redeploy that into our ecosystem as opposed to doing a coin burn at this stage. Like I said, if we invested in the next Google and 10 years down the line got $20 billion, yeah, we'd start, buying Dash and driving the price up. Of course, if the diff held an asset like that one, the value of Dash should reflect that, right? It should already be bid up in anticipation of that event. And so, as our portfolio grows and we're able to publish any of the gains or paper gains that we have, that should be reflected in the price of Dash.
Excellent. Well, we are at the 60-minute mark now. Ryan, would you be okay to answer one last question just quickly? Because I've been pinged on Discord where people are saying, what about the questions on Discord? And, we respect the community. So is it okay if I ask one final question?
Yeah.
Okay. So this question was put on the Dash Talk Discord. What does the DCG board do and how is it different to the Dashcore Group leadership? If you could just talk about the structure and how that works.
Yeah, so any corporation, and Dashcore Group is structured as a corporation. All of the shares are issued to the Dash DAO Irrevocable Trust. So nobody owns Dashcore Group. A trust does, and that trust beneficiary are the network. So that's the overall structure. Now, any corporation has to have a board, and that board can consist of people that are inside the company or outside the company. Right now, we have a mixture of both. Those positions are not paid, and our goal is to make those paid positions and hopefully bring in some external board members that will provide an overall crypto market perspective or offer us some type of connectivity with some of our partners or exchanges or some other benefit. And so that's a direction we want to go with the board. Right now, there is a great deal of overlap between DCG leadership and the board. I am on the board. Glenn and Bob are on the board, but we also have some people that have history with Dash but have left. Fernando was on our board and recently left. And Philip Engelhorn is on the board and is not an employee of Dashcore Group at this point. So right now, it is a mixture. This is an area where I clearly want to address it. I've had conversations in the past where, with the community in the past where, and with the trust protectors about putting term limits in place for the board. The trust protectors gave me feedback that that isn't necessary because they already see the direction that we're headed with this, and that there is going to be some turnover. And when we do replace them, we'll replace them with someone external. Ultimately, the board is not a Dashcore Group decision. It is the trust protector's decision. We do recommend a set of members to play that role. It is a legal role. They have authority and decision-making authority. They can fire me, for example. And so it is important that the trust protectors sign off on who we're recommending. They do that on an annual basis. It's done in the fall right after they're elected. And so while these are basically volunteer roles, there is this overlap, but ideally you want to see a separation between those two. So it's a good question. When you see corporate boards on publicly traded companies, obviously you see some people are both CEO and chairman of the board. As long as I feel like I'm adding value at the board, I'll continue to advocate for my involvement there. But I think at some point, I want to see more and more external board members come in, especially if the price allows for us to do that. That's been the gating factor the last couple of years.
Thank you, Ryan. This is probably a good segue just to remind the community that there is actually the 2021 Trust Protectors election going on right now. So if that is something of interest to you, or you would like to learn more about it, if you go to the official Dash social media, you will see links recently to a blog post detailing the election, what we're looking for, provides information about how the structure works. And if you are interested in being considered as a candidate, you have up until the 26th of March to complete the application. So if that is of interest, please do check that out. Okay, so the 60 minutes are up for today, and that will conclude today's Ask Me Anything with Ryan. Just a quick reminder before we wrap up, can I kindly ask you again, if you could let me know in the comments who you'd like to see from Dashcore Group in the next Ask Me Anything. As I suggested, I would personally like to see the Dash Investment Foundation. I think that would be a fantastic AMA to see for the community, but I look forward to reading your suggestions. Thank you, Ryan, for taking part in today's Ask Me Anything.
Yeah, great questions. Once again, these are, I think, healthy for the dialogue between the community and DCG, and I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, I look forward to having some other guests on here too. I know you guys will want to hear from more than just me, and so please give your feedback on who you would like to hear from. And it doesn't need to be Dashcore Group. It can be members of the DIF. And there's some interesting things happening there as well. So I would encourage, feedback on what the priorities are to hear from, and we'll do more of these.
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan. And I'd also like to give my thanks to you all for watching and participating in today's Ask Me Anything. We sincerely hope that you have found this Ask Me Anything to be informative. Please do let us know in the comment section if you enjoyed it. Also, please make sure to follow the official Dash social media profiles to stay up to date with the latest and greatest in Dash news, announcements, and software releases. And if you are new to Dash and just happen to discover this video stream while surfing the web, and you'd like to learn more about Dash, please visit the website dash.org. Thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.
Thank you.